Coming this fall, the story of a grape who refuses to be crushed. One grape to rule them all, and one bottle to bind them.
Whoa, honey, what are you doing?
I was recording an intro.
Okay, that's great, but we got a podcast to do.
Okay.
All right, well, this is We Know Texas Vino.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing really good.
Welcome back. It's Sunday. It's a beautiful day. Holiday season. Things are going great. And we're starting to get fired up about 2024.
Yes. I can't believe it's just right in the corner, man.
Well, this year has been a whirlwind because not only did we learn a ton, right, but we had to learn from our mistakes. We had to adapt and modify. And of course, I was just telling this gentleman here who we'll introduce in a minute, my coolest part, Will, of this whole year so far has been meeting the great people who are involved in this amazing wine industry in Texas.
And I 100% agree with you on that. And unfortunately, the list is so long of all the people that we met that we can't do it in just one episode. So just so happens we're going to do another one.
We're going to do a closing episode. And we'll recognize all the great people we've met and then also the two people we don't care for. No, I'm joking. Everyone we met has been incredible. But we're excited to showcase 2023, which to me has been a great year. It's been a success story. Yes. It's been an awesome experience. And so for me, just thinking of 2024 as we evolve and get better at what we're trying to do, how much more we'll be able to elevate this podcast, but also help the good folks out that we meet, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you actually saw it on Facebook. There was actually a gentleman who actually reached out to us because I did our closing remarks on our Facebook page about the end of the year. And he actually, he's a listener and he really loves our podcast. And, He actually gave me some really good ideas for our 2024.
Well, I think it's smart to pick the brains of people who have good ideas. So maybe we can have one here today, Greg, who we're going to introduce here in a minute. But definitely, if we can learn, why not listen?
Yeah, because we sitting here behind the microphone, we see what we're doing.
Sure.
And then we listen to it afterwards.
Right.
But what we don't see is behind or outside the microphone area, which is outside the box.
Right. And so it's fun. I love it. So listen, folks, episode 44, by the way, Will, little tidbit. This is for Greg as well. My college baseball number 44, great Hank Aaron. So I stole that from him. Nice. Hammer and Hank, number 44. This is episode number 44 of We Know Texas Vino. And we're here to have a good time today. Huh, Will?
Well, 2 years ago, I was 44.
Oh, okay. TMI. We're getting way ahead. We probably all three of us have numbers and that we can recall. But welcome back to our podcast, everyone. It's been a lot of fun. 43 successful podcasts, 43 episodes. And I was just telling Greg actually more than that because we had to cut a few in half and do 2 episodes. But listen, we're here today in a really cool area, and I'm learning about it as I speak. But we're in basically Rockwall, Texas, but more importantly, we're in McClendon, Chisholm. Is that correct, Greg?
That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's a town I've never heard of. Yeah. Yes, so we're in McClendon. I have to read it. Chisholm in Rockwall County, Texas.
Yes.
How exciting is that?
That is freaking amazing.
And we have a really fun guy. We got to hang out with this guy. Greg, thanks for letting us come in here. But we got to hang out with you for like an hour asking you questions. It's like, man, we should be recording this. But Greg and his wife, Carol Rosini, are amazing. And Greg's here with us now. So welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. And you fed us this morning. Tell us about the food and you served us wine when we got here. What were we eating and drinking?
Well, I'm gonna tell you a little story to start out. I come from the food service industry. I was a beer and wine specialist for years, but I always said I would never own a restaurant.
Oops.
And when my wife decided the idea to open a winery, she decided we're just going to do a little charcuterie. And then our son won a national championship of high school culinary.
National championship.
Yes, national championship. And so we decided to up the food game a little bit. Plus, COVID had a little bit to do with that, too, because they weren't opening wineries at the time. You had to open up as a restaurant.
Right.
And so we did that. And so now we have excellent food, but now I basically own a restaurant.
Something he never was going to do. Here you are. Welcome. Is there anything else you're never going to do so we can come back in 2 years and see if you're down doing it? I don't know. Well, the food we had this morning was incredible. I ordered an incredible hash, like a breakfast hash. It was amazing. It was absolutely spectacular. And Will, you had like a biscuit and gravy breakfast, excuse me?
Dude, that biscuit and gravy. I wish I could have the gravy actually in a container so I can have it at home.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't put some in your pocket to take it home or something like that.
I tried to, but it started leaking through the pocket already.
Well, so Greg, do you do like every Sunday brunch? Is that what you do?
We do brunch every Sunday. It starts at 11:30. We're a little bit late. We don't get up that early, but
good.
Brunch from 11:30 to 2, and we've got some talented guys in the kitchen.
Tell us about that real quick. Yeah, your son.
So our son was here.
Okay,
and he helped us up the menu a little bit, but he brought 2 friends with him, Lucas and Gibby. that he worked with at other places, and he brought them in, and then he promptly went back to school to study robotics. Decided wine and food wasn't his passion, so he left us, and he's back in school now. But Gibby and Lucas stayed with us, and they are awesome. And you tasted their food. They
were the ones who prepared this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, they were. Is it the young man who came out here? Is that one of them?
No, actually, that's Eric. He helps us out. He's still in high school.
Okay. Oh, wow.
But Lucas and Gibby, we try to keep them in the back. They'll wander out eventually.
Troublemakers.
Keep them in the back to the shackles of the table.
Yeah, the shackles. They're shackled up back there. Cook food for us. Do it now. Well, then also we were blessed to have a nice glass of wine this morning. When I walked in, I looked at the menu and I said, Greg, I would like your Malbec. And your eyes got bright right away. Why is that?
Yeah, my Malbec's my favorite. You know, whenever you make a wine, you're not 100% sure what it's going to be like. And the Malbec's actually very fruit forward, but it's got this nice pepper at the end, and it's got a little bit of sweetness, and it just goes with so much food. And it's kind of my favorite at the moment right now. Although y'all are drinking my cab now.
That's what we're drinking now.
My cab is really good this year too.
You know, I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to try to find out where he stores all his boxes of cabs. Yeah. And if you'll distract him, I'll get some boxes.
I think if we want a good reputation, probably theft is not good on the old resume. Thievery. So that would be a bad thing.
We're going to borrow with no intent to return.
Right. Well, one of the cool things, Greg, that we've met, we've experienced over the year is just great wines. I was pretty locked into one winery in January of 2023, and now there's a plethora of wineries I'm so inspired by, and the wines. I have a huge wine showroom, and you do as well, Will, which is pretty cool because we've met so many great wineries. But this cab I'm drinking now, tell me about this. Is this a state? Are you bringing in grapes? How do you make this? So
we get our grapes from all over Texas. That is a High Plains cab right there.
I taste that.
But I work a lot with Sages out in East Texas.
Yes.
And so they acquire most of my grapes for me, but everything we do is grapes. I don't get any juice. Everything's our idea is Texas. So we try to get everything from Texas, but High Plains is the best. But we found some really good things in East Texas too, even around Tyler and Longview. It's amazing. Oh
yeah, there's a lot of good wine vineyards out in that area that are just like all of a sudden just starting to pop up out of nowhere now because of the type of soil they've got out there. It's definitely different from what you get at the High Plains or around the Hill Country.
Yeah. Well, I was going to grow a lot of grapes here in Rockwall County, and if you've ever seen a map of the soils in Texas, there's this big brown thing that comes up like this, and making a hand motion here, but comes up, and I call it the middle finger of Texas because it's the black clay that's down in Houston, and it comes all the way up, and it stops just about McClendon Chisholm here. So I have pure black clay here.
That'd be interesting to see. That's funny. The big, what'd you call it? The middle finger
of Texas. If you look at the soil map, it shows that black clay.
I love it.
Gumbo clay.
I'll have to look that up because I need to see that now.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
If you go just a little bit west of here, it's not there. And in East Texas, you got the sandy loams.
Yeah,
right.
So right here, though, we still have that goes all the way down to the coast.
Well, here's what I've learned about Greg. He's a very physical speaker like I am. I'm always like pointing and doing different things.
Same here.
If our listeners could see Greg right now, they'd be like, "Oh, that looks really familiar."
It might come from the Rosini name. I don't know. Something about Italians.
Italian,
on our hands.
I love it.
Man.
Cool. Well, real quick, tell us about your property here. We walked into a fantastic, immaculate tasting room and obviously kitchen, and it's just a wonderful. We have patrons here right now who are probably listening a little bit to our podcast. But tell us about how this evolved. Where are we, and why did this come to fruition? How did this all happen?
Well, my wife and I, when I actually met Carol back in 2006, I'm guessing, I believe.
You better know that. You better know that, Greg.
It's in there tight. I didn't even drink wine. She was just starting to drink wine, and she lived in the north side of Rockwall. And I lived in Forney, Texas, in about 20 minutes from here. But we were dating, and her doctor had suggested she drinks red wines to help her cholesterol. And because she was drinking so much other stuff. Anyway, so anyway, she started drinking wine, and so because of her, I started drinking a little bit of wine, and I started out drinking, nothing but Kool-Aid, the sweetest wines I could find. That was what I considered wine. Yeah, exactly. But as we were together, we started traveling, and we would always go and pick a winery. And for our first anniversary after we got married, we went to Napa. And that's when I got hooked.
Nice.
Drinking California cabs in Napa, it changed my life. So
wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
So I started drinking good stuff, and then I worked myself back to where I could appreciate, a little bit more subtle differences and things like that. But was a real cab drinker. That's pretty much was like my go-to.
Right.
And then my wife retired. I cannot remember the year, but she retired from business. She was a salesperson, and she was a very big executive in her business. But she got very ill one year and was hospitalized for quite a bit of time. And she told me, she said, I'm taking some time off from the work world, and she retired. And so I was still running another business. So it was my family business. And long story short, because I can make a story long.
We have 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly. While she was retired, I was working my other business. A company came and bought my business.
Nice.
There's always the what will it take number when they hit
right.
the what will it take number. I did not plan on selling. So at 50 years old, I sold my company, and they gave me a 2-year management contract. And I was like, well, we all know what that means. In 2 years, they're going to unload me, and they're
right.
That's right.
With my business. So I said at 52, I'm going to be unemployed. And so, me and my wife sat down with Carol. Was like, you know what I'd like to do? She says, I'd like to open a tasting room. And by this time, I'd become quite a bit of a wine drinker. So, I said, I kind of like the idea. But she had bought me a Christmas. She bought me a winemaking kit just as a hobby.
That's fun.
I'm a big tinkerer. I'm a big science guy. I'm a geek. And so I played with it, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. So I said, well, if we're going to do this, I said, I'd rather open a winery. I'd rather make my own wine. So,
right.
So I went to Grayson County College and started going to school while I was already planning on having my own winery. And I live just a little bit from here, and I would drive by this property on my way to work every day. It was a cattle ranch.
Okay.
It's called the Double D Ranch here. And I would drive by it. It was for sale for a couple of years, and 25 acres, and nobody bought it. It has a home on it. And so I said, I think that's the place, because it has a little pond behind us here.
I was reading about that.
And I said, I also knew the highway here, which is Highway 205 coming through Rockwall to Terrell, that I knew they were going to be expanding that in the future, and it's going to be a major thoroughfare, and the population's just booming out here.
Yep.
So I thought it was a perfect property, and I love the fact that McLennan Chisholm's a very rural area. So being that was rural, and I have a pond, and I just wanted to keep it open and just feel natural. You sit out in the back of this place, you can overlook the pond, you drink a glass of wine, and you're seeing nothing but trees and empty land. And I just really thought that was going to be what we did. So.
Well, you nailed it for sure. I mean, walking in here, it just felt fresh, and the breeze was coming through here. And then, of course, walking into the station room, you did a great job. Great location for sure for this community.
It is definitely an amazing little area that you've got, because I know when I pulled up, it's just like, wow. I mean, you take all your pictures and you put them online and you look at them, you're like, oh, this is great. And then when you get here and you're like, oh, wow, this is so much better than the pictures.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well,
better, better than the pictures.
Better than the pictures.
No,
good. It's kind of, okay, I'm going to compare this to hotels. Like, you see the pictures for the hotel, they're like, oh, that's really nice. And then when you get there, you're like, oh, wow, this is so much better than the pictures.
Hotels?
In my experience, yes.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh, the hotel looks great. And you get in there and it's like, oh my gosh, where am I staying tonight? This is insane. My wife, Erica. She is very particular about that. So this was the opposite for me. I'm going to give you
a cardboard box then.
Well,
no, I'm like, literally, I've seen the pictures online, and I'm like, oh, this is a very beautiful place.
What you're saying is Carol and Greg have exceeded your expectations.
I mean, it's just it's much more than I expected it to be, because it's so much more beautiful.
I'll tell you a little secret. It kind of exceeded mine too. I was really impressed. My wife did all the design on property, and every time she come to me with an idea that was going to cost a lot of money, I was always like, no, I just don't know. But somehow she always got the money, and she always did it. And she's been spectacular. She's done a great job here. So I designed the structure. That was my work world, is designing bars and restaurants. And so I designed the structure, and I designed the bar, and I did all the mechanical stuff, but when it come to making this place really look beautiful, she did a great job.
Well, as a good interviewer, I have a backup question then, because so you said she somehow got the money. How does that work out, Greg? She gives you that pretty smile, and then you concede and throw her a few $1,000s.
Yes.
But my backup question to that even is, she must have the vision. You have the visionary of a businessman, and kind of knowing what you want to do in retirement, and of course for your legacy family. But she has some sort of like a cultural vision, or some sort of a interior design vision.
She does. She is great at that. Now, the funny thing is, when we started this, she wanted to build a barn style winery, and I was like, no, not in this area. We're doing. I'm telling another story.
You should.
That's what we're here for.
That's what it's for. That's right.
That's what we're here for. So we went to Spain. I had work to do in Spain, and so we went there, and we stayed another 4 days to tour Spanish wine country. And when we got there, I was very surprised because when you go into these wineries in Spain, I expected it to be kind of like what we do in America. You have a tasting room, and somebody tells you about their wines and everything. That wasn't it at all. We were in the Priorat, which is the border of France and Spain, so northern Spain. And when we would go to a winery, you would be greeted by the owner, who was also the winemaker and everything else too, which now I understand. I didn't at that time. But he would take us in and tour his facility with us, and then he'd take us into his house.
Oh.
And when I say house, these people usually lived on this property for several hundred years.
Yep.
So these homes were really, really cool. They're almost like mini castles. And they would take us in, and they don't drink wine without eating food. So they would cook you a meal in their house. So not a meal, usually it's more like tapas and stuff, but they would give you incredible food, and you drink their wine in their house. So my vision of the winery was, I said, I want to build this. Now I'm not Spanish, I'm Italian. And there is a nice winery on the north side of town called San Martino that actually they're Spanish.
Yep.
And they actually have the Spanish villa style. But I said, I'm going to do an Italian villa style. But I wanted the feeling of being in somebody's home.
Okay.
So when you come in our place, you see we have a fireplace, and we have the couches, and we'll roll out the TV if we need to, like Cowboys game tonight.
That's right. Big game tonight.
But and all the tables here are all old dinner tables that we had refinished. So I wanted that very, very homey feel. That was my idea, but my wife put it all together. She really did it.
Yeah, the ladies always kind of put it all together. They glue it all together. All the ideas us fellows have, right? We're so like, there's a squirrel, that's something shiny object, and they're the ones who bring it together. So you're giving her a lot of credit, and we're actually going to interview her hopefully at the end here and get the real side of the story. But that's pretty cool that you guys had that great working and also cooperative effort here.
Yeah.
Well, talk about how homey you make this feel. I mean, like literally the minute I walked in, I mean, I felt like I was walking into y'all's house, and I had actually, it took that brief second to realize where I was actually at, because I mean, it did feel like walking into somebody's house, because you got the fireplace sitting right there, and, and just the lights you have in the house and how everything was just set up. It just felt very homely. And I really did like that.
Yeah, well, and that is exactly the feel that we wanted to have. Unfortunately, some people drive right by us because it looks like a home from the outside as well.
And I'll have to admit, I was one of those.
Well, and I did the quick break thing, but that's a good thing. Once you know, it's a beautiful thing. So how long have you been here then, Greg?
So I bought this property in 2018 with the idea of building and opening. I planted the vineyard first. And I was actually at Grayson County during all this time studying. But then this little thing called COVID happened and kind of slowed our roll. So we actually opened in 2021 in July. And so we're right at 2.5 years right now.
Nice.
Right on. And it says here you planted your first vineyard in 2019. That makes sense. So all that timeline comes together right there. So I guess the reason I asked that question personally was just that when I walked in, it felt very established. So I was shocked when you told me earlier that you've only been here 2.5 years. This felt like a 10-year, 15-year run here. That's what I really felt. Even the outdoors.
It feels that way to me.
Yeah, I know. But being an entrepreneur, that sometimes, a year feels like 10, right?
But, when you wake up now in the morning, you look at what you've accomplished over the last 2 years now, and you're like, wow, we really did this.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Okay.
So as I said, I sold my business, and I had that 2-year contract. And then the 2 years came to an end, and they signed me to another contract. So next week is the last week that I'm actually working my day job and get to do this full time.
That's pretty cool. Well, congratulations. We talked about that pregame, and that's such a cool journey. But be able to, I think last weekend being recognized by your peers. I mean, it was last night, the last couple of nights, Christmas parties, being recognized, retirement, that sort of thing. A new chapter, Greg. That's so cool for you.
No, I'm so excited about it.
What so you're gonna be full-timer, so what are your roles? So your wife, you've given her a lot of credit, and I'm sure it's extraordinarily deserved, but it sounds like she runs the show. I mean, she's kind of the tasting room manager. She kind of keeps things, she's in charge of the employees and all that kind of stuff. When you retire in 1 week, are you guys gonna start sharing some of those roles, or what is gonna be your major role?
So my plan is to do that. I don't know how well she'll share authority.
We'll ask her.
There are a lot of projects I have. So I am the winemaker. I do the vineyard almost exclusively myself. I love it when somebody wants to volunteer and help. I run harvest when we crush. I am out. So if you've noticed, you haven't taken a tour of the property here, but I don't have a production facility on site right now.
Right.
So I'm doing most of my stuff in East Texas at Sages. I do have some tanks here. I have my barrel room here. I do have a lot of storage, refrigerated building on site. So I'm taking care of all that. But I am actually running out into East Texas quite a bit and participating in Crush out there and reviewing and making our wines. And then I make estate wine here. So like Blanc de Bois, I have Blanc de Bois in the tanks right now, and I did that. So that which will be my first estate grown wine. Now I actually made wine from my grapes last year, was my first harvest. But I had to drive the grapes in because of COVID, I couldn't get all my equipment in. And I missed making my wine on site last year. So I actually had to go drive it in East Texas and crush it out there and did it. So this year, this harvest was our first harvest where we actually crushed on site, pumped it in the tanks, made it all here, and it's in the tanks right now, and I'm excited about it.
Nice.
Bottling that soon. It'll be our first estate grown wine.
And we talk about, takeaways at the end. I'm going to do my takeaway now. And that is just this chapter of learning that I know, but I'll have a better takeaway later. But what he's describing is that chapter. Young entrepreneurs or even middle-aged or older entrepreneurs, if they want to jump into something like this, Greg, it's not an easy task, but you almost have to take it in stages, don't you? So you just described to me several stages, which are beautiful because they're all stages which equal success, but it's not just an overnight success.
No. Well, the great thing is when you're an entrepreneur and you get an idea, you don't know what's going to happen. That's not the great thing. The great thing is you don't know what's going to happen, because if you did, you probably would never have done it.
Well, I would say, I've said even to my own children, risk is adventurous. I mean, exactly. you have to go for it.
Well, and it's not even just that, but the same thing with this podcast here. We jumped in not knowing what we're doing, and next thing you know,
we've spent like $3,000. He probably spent $3 a minute when he was getting things going here. So
I don't even want to say how much over budget we went.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well, that's the tail, TALE, right? The tail of entrepreneurs and of winemakers.
Definitely.
But for sure, we've heard that many times. So I want to just shift real quick. I took a couple notes here as you were talking. We've heard the last 3 or 4 podcasts, a ton of information about Sages.
Yes.
Can you tell us about your excitement and are you advocating for this amazing organization? Why has it benefited your business?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, some of the ones you've talked to, I've probably introduced them. Michael McLennan, Wes out there in Nacogdoches. I met them through TWIGA, which is Texas Wine and Grape Growers Association. And my phone's ringing here.
Don't okay. You know that's taboo on a podcast?
I'm turning it off.
That is your winemaker calling.
I love it. It's real. It's real.
But yeah, so when you're opening a winery, you don't have a building yet. You don't have your tanks. You don't have all this equipment, and you're going to open in 2 years, and you want to have wine day one. You don't want to build your facility and then make wine. So custom crush in Texas. It is a very helpful thing when you're getting started, and I pretty much told everybody that's the way to go when you're starting out, because you can really, they're consultants to you. They can do as much or as little. If you buy all your own grapes and they get your own grape contracts, you can ship it to them. If you want to be there for crush, you can crush. If you want to tell them what you see,
that's great. That's so cool.
But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you're doing at all, they can do it all for you. So I really use them heavily because it's hard to get grapes, the grapes you want.
Right.
So by pulling in with other winemakers and be able to get grapes, that's been the biggest help. I didn't realize the first 2 years I made wine, how many grapes we couldn't get, or we order and we got shorted. So
we'll back up. You got shorted.
Oh yeah. So you order 5 tons, but you're a little guy of say cab. You order 5 tons of cab. It's not unusual to get 3 or 2.5. And all of a sudden that, if you're selling wine, So
I guess we really haven't touched on that a little bit. I get it. I just have not really heard that from anybody yet. So that's
I will tell
interesting.
You, like, Tanat. I ordered Tanat every year. I love a good bold Tanat. And I always wanted that to be one of my signature wines is a bold Tanat. And first 3 years making wine, I ordered Tanat. Never got any. 0. It was always shorted. Because either yields don't come out, whether things happen, but their big customers are going to get it first.
I got you.
And so if it's not there, they just say sorry.
Oh, wow.
So this year I said, you know what? I'm done with Tanat. I'm not going to make Tanat.
Okay.
I got 3 tons of Tanat this year. It was a great year for grapes this year.
It was.
It definitely was.
Yeah, we've heard that across the board. But I think it's Murphy's Law. I mean, maybe it's not Murphy's Laws, but when you don't want it, you get it. When you do want it, you don't get it.
I guess it's something of Murphy's anyway.
Some law. There's some law.
I wanted it. I had just given up hope and didn't even order it. So.
The worst thing for an entrepreneur to give up hope.
So
That's pretty cute.
When is your Tanat going to be ready?
Well, when I'll actually have it served, I mean, it's going to be bottled here after the first of the year.
Okay.
Maybe early spring, but I age my stuff. That's a great question. People always ask me that here. They say, how do you know when a wine's ready? And I said, I pour a little in the glass and I swirl it. I look at the color, I smell it and make sure the aromas are right. And I taste it. And if it tastes balanced, it's ready. I said, or if I ran out of the wine before it.
I love it. That's so awesome.
I do try to age my wine. I have an aging building on the property and I try to age everything. I say about 2 years because that's just the way it is. But sometimes whites will scream, they'll run ahead and they're ready. And I can serve a white earlier. Sometimes a red. I'm surprised that my cab is very young that you're drinking right now, but it's very balanced and nice.
It is.
So we released that a little earlier. But that was because the one before ran out.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. That's so. One thing about Greg, he's going to be honest, isn't he? He may lead up to the honesty, but then it's just pure honesty after that.
He just dumps it all out.
So, is there a wheelhouse time to age wines? Is there some places like, okay, as winemakers, we're like, okay, this is pretty much a 2-year event or a 2.5 year event or a year and a half. Is there a wheelhouse, or you just, as a winemaker, I'm always so intrigued. It's just gut.
Mm-hmm. I mean. No, really. So I make a wine, and my plan is 18 months. That's my target. That I'm going to start really checking it out and seeing, hey, is this ready? And it's funny because, like I said, a wine can be ready in much less than 2 years, and a wine may not be ready at 2 years.
Right.
And so, like, I have a reserve cab right now, and it was going to be bottled this month. And Carol and I tasted it and said, no, it just needs more time. It's just not. It's good. It's that same cab that you're drinking here, but I put it in French oak, and it's just not that much different than what I'm drinking at the bottle now. And so for a reserve cab, I'm going to let it go. And so
good for you.
So how old is that French barrel that you're using? Has it been used before? Or was it
was a one use barrel, and that's I think because I'm new to my barrel program, I didn't realize what a difference. Using it one time for a cab really did. A brand new French oak.
Oh yeah,
does an amazing thing. The 1 year, it's going to take more time.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah. So
the only reason I know that is because of James.
James is OG.
So that's a good episode to listen to. Listen to his the part 2 that we did with him about barrels.
Right.
You'll learn so much.
He's brilliant. Yeah, he's a really smart man.
Well, you never stop learning in this, and they're just so much. I told you about my son. I have a son that's a NASCAR pit crew guy. He's a mechanic. And so he knows, I mean, that's unusual for NASCAR pit crew guy, but to be a mechanic, but he's one of the mechanics. So he knows everything about these cars. And, they'll tell you there's infinite changes you can make to an automobile to make it go faster or handle better.
Just a twitch.
But wine is that same thing.
Interesting.
There's so many facilities. I mean, you need to know the grapes, and there's so many things you can do with grapes. And then you need to know barrels. There's so many things you can do with barrels. There is 1 million yeasts out there. It's amazing how many yeasts are out there.
That is such a great analogy. That's one of the better ones we've had so far. But to compare it to NASCAR, you're right. Like you said, Will, sometimes a little tweak that car, the gas mileage or whatever it is, just one little thing. I'm always amazed with NASCAR, the cars that run out of gas 300 feet from the finish line, right? But now let's apply that to winemaking, right? And so you may make one adjustment. Have you learned as a young winemaker that sometimes you make a mistake, and do you jot that down? Is there a journal you keep? It's like, I will not do that again. Or have you, like, this cab is fantastic. Have you said, okay, let's do that again. Let's duplicate that effort.
Well, it's funny. Yes. Both. I do keep notes, and I have mental notes a lot. And I know that I'm not going to do that
familiar.
Again. The great thing is I can tell you, I honestly don't feel like we've had a wine that is an undrinkable wine.
That's wonderful. Good for you.
And that is something that you fear every year, But when I do something and I say, oh, that one really came out good, you try to duplicate it. It's amazing. It's not the same.
Like you said, there's one little thing, and I've only used this one other time, so I'll use it again. But the great movie with Sean Connery called Medicine Man, where he somehow invented the cure for cancer, and he just couldn't duplicate it, right? And it comes to find out when the Amazon forest burns down, it was actually a spider that got into anyway, it was kind of crazy. But yeah, same thing here. You can't really, it's like a fingerprint. You can't do it exactly the same each time. But
and I haven't really got my own wine contracts. That is something, now that I'm retiring, I want to spend a lot more time in the high plains and develop maybe some of my own wine contracts so I can get the same vineyard, the same grapes year after year. Again, I'm still new enough at this that may still not do it because seasonal changes and things like that. But I've gotten my cab from different vineyards every year, and so they're going to be different.
Yeah, they are.
I've made 3 cabs, and they've been drastically different. So,
well, you know, going out there and talk to Cliff out of Bingham.
Yes,
I mean that man. I've met him a couple times, and I've talked to him, and I feel like a little peon talking to him about, you know, grapes and wine and all that. And that man has so much more knowledge in his head than he has more knowledge about wine in his pinky finger than I do in my whole body.
Understood.
And that man is just pure brilliance.
Well, you want to be around those people. I mean, you have a purpose in life, and for Greg and his beautiful wife, it's making wine and good wines for this community. So you may as well start picking their brains. Well, let's talk about wines real quick. I have a menu in front of me. What are some of the wines you're incredibly proud of? And of course, you're proud of everything you just mentioned. Everything tastes great, and so far A+. But what are some of the things that you're extraordinarily proud of, and what inspires this community with your wines?
So the wines that I do every year that are always going to be on my menu are Texas Cabernet, and I'm very proud of that one that you're drinking now. And then I do Blanc de Bois. That's the grape I grow, and Blanc de Bois for this area is the best thing that I could ever done, was choosing Blanc de Bois grape because I love working with it. A lot of people come in here and they say, "Oh, Blanc de Bois, I don't like Blanc de Bois," and I'm like, "Try this," because to me, it's been a fun grape to work with. I really like it. Yeah. It grows easy. It is a weed. It's
resilient, right? It's resilient.
But you eat the grape and it's sweet. So if you pick it off the vine, you can make jelly out of it. But it makes a fantastic, smooth, soft white. And so the first year that we did Blanc de Bois, we entered it into Rodeo and Cork down in Houston. And we won a double gold medal with it. And I was like, wow, it's about time. It was the first thing that I remember.
It's about time.
So I'm very proud of the Blanc de Bois. And we do that every year. And we actually make it in a semi-sweet and a sweet now, too, just because I always have it and can depend on it. And, you know, people in this area, the great thing is somebody wrote a comment. I think they meant to be nasty online about us reviewing us. And they said, you know, your place is kind of like the Cheers of wine. It says you walk in and everybody's talking to each other. They know each other. And I said, I think that's good.
That is a good thing.
But we're a small community. So, you know, people come in here and they'll just come up and give me a hug. And it's, you know, as owners, we're here all the time. And I think that's different. So you asked about the community and what they like about it. I think they just really like the family feeling that we have around here. And but we make some pretty good wine.
Well, that's why they keep coming back. The community, the culture, the vibe, all those things. But then the wine is like the bonus, right? It's like, and we have great wine here, so that's pretty cool.
Well, it's not just great wine, but also great food. By the way, let's make sure we add that in there too.
For sure.
Yeah, very lucky you have the Lord has put wonderful people in my path all the way along this journey. Yeah, and we could not have been what we are without people that have stumbled into our life, not necessarily been seeked out by us. So we've been very blessed about that.
Well, it's just like anything you do. A lot of times you talk about your successes, and certainly you've been blessed with the lucky charm. Everything seems to be falling into place, and it's just a fine line how that happens, right? Even with
and hope it continues.
Yes, well, and we're knocking on wood for you. We want that to happen. But you know, what's close to your heart in this community? So obviously serving a great community, but are there other things you do as an entrepreneur to give back to the community in addition to serving phenomenal wines?
No, I don't do anything else.
Okay, that's the end of our interview. Welcome to We Know Texas Vino. We'll see you next week.
No, actually, that is one of the great things about my impending retirement here is I really do love the community. Rockwall is fantastic, but we're surrounded by a ton of little towns out here. I mean, we've got Terrell, Fate, Royce City, Rockwall, Heath, Forney, and so all these great communities, and we're in the center of all of that, and so it's a great place for people to converge and get away a little bit. And I have wanted to give back to the community quite a bit. They've accepted us in a huge way here. We've been given awards and by the community.
Oh,
and things
great!
Like that.
Nice.
So part of my impending retirement, I've been working 7 days a week for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah,
and so stepping away from there, I do really want to get much more involved in the local community, charities, and also Chamber of Commerce and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that availability to do that. So.
For sure. Absolutely. That's exciting. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Again, the winery is fantastic. Your wines, you guys had another sip. It's really good, Will. It's amazing.
I know. It makes it hard when to continue talking.
Continue talking. Oh, my gosh. You have a flaw there because I love to talk when I drink. Now, let's move gears here real quick. I was looking at your website earlier, and I'm just scanning it again now. You have a lot of really cool live events here. I'm looking at one real quick, and ironically, my wife did something similar. A Cork Christmas tree craft night, for example.
That was Thursday night.
Okay,
last week.
Okay, Thursday the 14th.
And, that was a lot of fun. So my wife and I as you can imagine, you go through a lot of corks here. And so we've never thrown any corks away. We always throw them in a bag, and they sit in our garage. And so my wife is very crafty. Her whole family is crafty. I think my sister-in-law does a lot of our shirts for us that are behind you there, and her whole family just does crafty things. So we, my wife bought at a winery. She bought a Christmas ornament. I think you saw the picture of it. It's like a reindeer ornament.
Yeah.
And so at the house one time in front of the TV, she had me deconstruct it and figure out how we could make it. And then the same thing, she had a little mouse ornament that we made, and the mouse is made out of a champagne cork.
Yeah.
And the cage. So all the little wire legs and arms are made out of the cage. And so anyway, we had a crafting class. My wife's doing crafting classes all the time, whether it's glass painting or making ornaments. And she's got a Christmas tree one coming up, cork Christmas trees. We did cork pumpkins.
Oh, that's a good one.
Cork themed.
A lot of cork.
Well, I mean, if you got corks laying around, why not?
Well, it's like me at the house. I collect corks like crazy. And so my wife actually went to Washington to visit her family recently and took a bag of corks and the little tree, the little styrofoam. And that's what she and her sister and her mother did, were build a Christmas tree corks. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But also here, you did a great job on your website, whoever does that, with your Friday night music. It looks like every Friday night, pretty much for the next forever here, you have some really nice live music.
So my wife does have a background in music a little bit. So she always finds local talent here. Actually, I think it finds us because we have people come in all the time. But I'm amazed at, for the small community we're in, what amazing local talent that there is here.
Yes.
So we have a few guys that are regulars that that'll play with us pretty much monthly, and then we fill in with other people, and we're always trying new things because we like to mix it up. We both like a lot of country music, but we'll listen to classic rock, jazz, we mix it up so that there's something for everybody in here.
I've always thought it was important. We frequented a winery up in North Dallas, and they pretty much all do jazz or that sort of thing. And so I like that you mix it up, and especially being a guy who loves every genre of music, right? It's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's really cool. And then you attract new people. If someone reads that you're doing good old classic rock and roll, I'm an Eagles fan, by the way. Maybe that's the night they show up here, and then suddenly they love your winery and your wines, and you have a new patron, and they're lifelong patrons, which is cool. Yeah. So you do parties as well. I read you do parties and private parties, which is cool. Tell us a little bit about that for our listeners.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask if we do weddings, and we haven't really gotten in that niche. Our building's just not structured for that. But we have our barrel room, we have our outdoor pavilion. We've put turf out in the back, and we have a very large outside seating. We've set up tents, so we really try to cater to whatever event you want to do. We'll have a Walmart Christmas party in here tonight for a Walmart corporate office, and we have everybody.
So is that for the self checkout?
No, this isn't for the store. This is like corporate thing.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if I can say their name on here. Sorry about that.
Nope.
But we'll have office parties. We had one of the local hospitals had the nurses. They came in here in pajamas last week, and they rented the place out in the evening. And,
there you go.
They had a pajama party here. It's a terrible job.
Yes, it is.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
That is very funny. I like that. Well, cool. It sounds like you're attracting a lot of cool, unique, dynamic people to come here and participate. And I was looking at some of the areas. Yeah, you have this huge area outside. So do you fill that place up like every weekend in the summertime? How does that work out? Because it looks like it's pretty big.
So this last year, I got to tell you, was really an interesting year for outdoor music because, during the spring, it was actually a very wet spring this year. And then during the summer, it was a little bit warm.
So a little bit.
So we have the ability to put music inside or outside. And sometimes it's a game day decision. So 105 degrees, we might have moved it inside. But here it is December, and this Friday we had music outside. So
it's been a great December.
70-some degrees outside.
Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. So we have the ability to move it in. But if at all possible, we'd love to put it outside. The pond's back there with the fountain.
Saw that.
We've got a lot of seating out there, and it just is a nice nice venue to sit outside. That's my favorite, is when we can have live music in about 75 degrees.
Oh, it's perfect, isn't it? You're not sweating. You're enjoying your wine, enjoying the music. That's so perfect.
No flies, no mosquitoes, no bugs,
it's
no
perfect.
nothing.
Good time of year. I've always loved Decembers in Texas, so it's pretty nice. Now, just walking in here, Will, when I walk here, I noticed some of the things he just described. It's great, but you and I should take a tour afterwards and see all it is. But for our listeners, trust me, it's a nice location. So if you're in the area or you were visiting the area, stop by. It's really a fun time for sure.
You made a comment at the very beginning about, the design of the house or your tasting room and how you wanted that whole Italian style. And that's a lot of the reason why it attracted me, because I love that style. I mean, that's just between that and the Spanish one. Like, what was the other one up the road?
San Martino.
Yeah, San Martino.
They were our inspiration to start originally.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out.
I love the style that both of y'all have. And it to me, it looks really upscale. Because when you look at a lot of the tasting rooms, a lot of them has got the barn style or the metal barn building style, or even in some cases, shipping containers.
Right.
Right. We know that one.
Yeah, we know that one.
That's cool.
But yours is a little bit different. Yours is more. Again, I want to say more upscale, more formal
modern.
style.
Maybe is that a word? We're not modern.
Not even modern.
Okay, upscale.
Well, you're nailing it, because that was my concept. I wanted to look upscale, but I wanted to feel casual.
Right.
And so that was the vibe we were trying to do. I mean, the building is supposed to look like an estate, Italian estate, and that was what I was shooting for. So I like the upscale look. I like the upscale feel. If you're going to go out and spend your money, you want to go someplace nice. And so I like that feel. But I laughed when, like I said, somebody said that we were like Cheers, because I did think it was great. That people come in here and it's just all friendly. And
I don't see Norm, so we're okay.
Yeah. Well, he's at casual.
he comes later.
Okay.
Norm.
Well, now all you need now is some potato gnocchi, some gnocchi or some lasagna. Now we're good to go.
Oh, so we'll be doing lasagna tonight. So
very nice.
the Walmart guys are getting.
I'm crashing a party tonight.
Yeah, we're here. Let's stay.
We're crashing a party.
You mentioned casual, and that for our listeners, Greg is just wearing his boxers right now. So for our listeners out there, but
that's why I've been looking up.
Looking up. Awesome. Well, you have a wine club as well, Greg. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah. So again, we've been very blessed. Our wine club is really easy. We have a 2-bottle or a 6-bottle wine club, red or white. You can get whatever you want, though. I've got people that come in the red club and they only ever buy champagne, but it's a quarterly club, and they it doesn't cost anything to join, and we give them free glasses every month, 2 free glasses a month, and then they're invited to all the you mentioned our events and stuff like that. They're invited to all of our private events first. They get an advance notice. So things that are happening around here a lot of times don't get. We're up to, I think, 700 members in our wine club in 2 years. So it's a pretty amazing.
Well, you kept saying you're a small winery. 700 is not. That's a
not
big
a small number.
Yes,
so,
impressive.
So unfortunately, when we advertise a special event, a lot of times, like I say, we send it out to wine club members 2 weeks in advance to let them have first shot at it. And a lot of things never make it to the public because of
it's
that.
filled.
Right.
But our wine club's a lot of fun. We have a quarterly pickup party.
Okay.
We do food pairing with that, and live music, and just like I said, I say 750. That's that's because there's couples, so really it's
right.
It's not 750 people cramming in here when we do an event. But
all right, well, go ahead, Will. You have something you want to say?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay, well, I have the tough question of the night. Now, it's not actually tough. It's going to be fun. I learned this from Greg earlier, and I want to talk about this because I think people will learn a lot about this. You and I were talking about Texas law earlier, and that you recall that conversation?
yes, I do.
Okay, you kind of gave me a look like, what the heck is he talking about? And so interesting how here in this county, a dry county, correct me if I'm wrong,
dry
city, and that because of the Texas law and the loophole, you were able to create a winery. Let's go to elaborate on that part.
Before we go too deep on this, do we need to make sure we don't let this get too public out? Because we don't want this loophole to be covered up.
Yeah, we don't want to harm you.
I do know you guys are broadcast over 30 states,
30 countries.
30 countries.
Yeah,
that's what I meant, countries. So I don't know if this applies anywhere else, but here in Texas, our government has chosen to put an amendment in the Texas Constitution, actually, and it's specifically for the manufacture of wine, that if you use 75% Texas grapes in the production of your wine, that you're excluded from dry law.
Wow.
Did you know that, Will?
I did not know that.
He told me that earlier.
Now, is that 75% grapes? Can it be 75% Texas product?
No. So this does not apply to beer. It doesn't apply to other alcohol.
Okay.
This is for wine, as I understand it. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so do not use anything I say.
Quote everything he's saying.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But it was fun to go to City Hall here, and they told us we had to get on the ballot to be able to do what we wanted. And pulled out the Texas Constitution, and they were like,
nice.
Did not know that.
That is awesome.
That's almost as bad as pulling out the Bible and saying,
yeah, but that's like a mic drop. It's like, oh, actually, the Texas Constitution says this. Thank you very much.
I'm walking away now, mic drop, and I'm done.
Oh my gosh. So you're able to get around that, and that's why you're here, because you understood that law. And even though you're not an attorney, you were able to decipher that and say, listen, this is actually a legitimate opportunity.
And a shout out to Grayson County College, because they were the ones that I took the law class over there, and they were ones that tipped me off on that.
Well, that's huge, though. But that's why they want you to learn those things, so you can kind of do great things for the community like that. So, anything else you've learned from that experience? Would you, like a young entrepreneur, I want to do a winery, but those things intimidate me. Is that an intimidating opportunity, or intimidating experience, or just like, let's get this done? My vision's too big.
Well, I will tell you, like I said, if I really knew what I was getting into, I might never have done it. But truthfully, anything that you do, you jump in and you work hard, and you just jump in with both feet, and you learn what you need to learn. And there's so much I'm still learning.
Right.
I guarantee I will be for the next, as long as I'm in this, I'll be learning.
Well,
That's beautiful.
Anything you want to do or you want to learn or anything like that, you jump in head first, and then you ask questions later.
Absolutely.
I mean, we know that personally from doing this right here. We just jumped in head first and said, okay, now let's figure out how we do this as we're going.
Well, my wife and I have taught our children, our children's friends, everyone we know. It's like, if you have a vision, go do it. What's the worst part? Go home and wet yourself in the corner if you have, but at least try it. Go for it and have fun. Now, there is a financial aspect to owning a winery, and so that's a little bit more risky. But for sure, if you have some sort of passion, go follow it. I mean, my goodness, why wouldn't you do that? Going through life without following your passion. So, well, Greg, let's go ahead and talk about, because I just grabbed your wife and say, hey, we want to talk to you for a minute too, because we want to get the real.
Did she say yes?
She said, she pointed at him and said, I think he's got it as a negative, Missy. You're coming over here in a minute.
You told her she had to be on here.
I instructed her that would be a very nice thing for her to do.
You told her she had to be on.
I told her, yes. But Greg, share your heart real quick, buddy. You should be very proud of what you've done here. I'm so impressed with your enthusiasm and your disposition, who you are. I mean, we could easily be great friends, but tell us from the heart, just some other things you want to share with our listeners.
Interesting. So at the end of the day, I'm a family guy. I said we got a big family. We got 5 kids.
Brady Bunch.
I love people. I was a salesman for 30 some years, and so there's nothing more fun about this than having a captive audience of customers that come in and listen to all my stories. So I love the community, and that's, I will tell you, I told you I'm a science geek, and making wine really jazzed me. And I thought, hey, how cool! I like wine. We'll do a winery, but at the end of the day, it's the people. I mean, the people that come in here have changed my life.
Wow.
And that's what I really love about doing this. And you, I think you said it to me earlier. You said the Texas wine community is just amazing in your first year doing podcasts.
Favorite part.
Amazing people.
Favorite part. Yeah.
But yeah, just the people in this industry are amazing. The people that come into our business and into our lives are amazing. And that's what keeps me going every day. And that's what I'm so looking forward to continuing.
And that attitude and personality will attract so many people to this establishment. So it's iconic, and it's a legacy of, forever, everlasting. It's going to be amazing because of your personality. And I'm assuming that when I meet your wife here, Carol, here in a minute, that'll probably be very much the same.
It's true. I mean, she's got it. It's just, I'm going to be interested to listen over her shoulder talking, because she doesn't like to talk about it.
I have questions.
It's kind of funny because a lot of the wineries who have husband and wife, and the wife says, I don't like to talk about it.
I told him this.
Next thing you know, she's like monopolized the whole thing.
I told him this. Exactly.
So I'll get like a 30-second introduction for the rest of the podcast.
We'll just hear your name, and then all of a sudden it's all about her now.
Welcome to the podcast. We're going to edit Greg because Carol is so phenomenal. Greg's a good guy. Come meet him. But his wife is really the secret here. But
yes.
Well, good. Well, lastly, before we move on here to some education and your wife, and then we also have a patron we're hoping to interview very briefly as well. Where can people reach you on social media as well as physical location?
So, as I said, we're located in McLennan Chisholm, which is on Highway 205, just between Rockwall and Terrell, about slap dead in the middle. And on our website, it's rosinivineyards.com. And you can find anything you need to know about us there. We're also on Instagram and Facebook and
excellent
and all the social media.
Yeah. Well,
nice.
I'm going to wrap it up here with this gentleman real quick with a little story, though. Greg, you have to be honest and transparent. So apparently you've been having a little fun the last couple of nights. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell
yes,
us.
I'm on
Tell
the
us.
second day of a hangover.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that or not. And so I want to compliment you. I know I've been in your shoes there for sure. Not recently, but in years past. It is tough at Fredericksburg. That's funny. That was you.
That was Jen, actually.
Oh my gosh, Jen and Erica. But to be able to do this, thank you for the invite. We're gracious for that. I know that easily could have been a can you come back next weekend opportunity, but you did it, and I'm proud of you, and thanks for all you do, buddy.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate y'all coming out and seeing us.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. That was fun. It made me happy. I'm a happy guy right now. So a glass of wine, a good breakfast, and a good companion right here.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
So we're going to wrap up this segment. We're going to try to interview the wife, try to interview a patron, and then also do a little education at the end.
Yep.
This is Michael.
This Will.
Cheers. All right, welcome back, everyone, to We Know Texas Vino, episode 44, my college baseball number. How cool is that?
That was what I was, again, like I said, 2 years ago, I was 44.
And Hammer and Hank Aaron, one of my all-time favorite players, number 44.
Oh, wow.
Yahoo. So I love it.
Hank
well, we're here
Williams.
with the most important part of this podcast today with the beautiful Carol, who is the wife of Greg, who we interviewed a minute ago.
And from what we're understanding, she's actually the brains of this whole operation.
Interior designer, creative, crafty, energetic, wonderful. But we're going to talk to her here in a minute. But let's talk about our sponsors real quick. We have some really good ones, don't we, Will?
Oh yeah. So one of our biggest sponsors is the Texas Wine Lover. Have you heard of Texas Wine Lover?
Yes.
So they are actually, Amy and Jeff have created such an amazing little application out there.
The Godfather.
Yeah, the Godfather and the Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. Another glass of wine.
I am done for the day. Bye. No,
they're great.
But they've created something that's an amazing little app out there. And honestly, that's how we were finding a lot of these wineries, because we really want to hit these smaller mom and pop wineries. There's nothing wrong with the big ones, but we want to give more attention to the small mom and pop ones. And that's how we found a lot of these wineries now.
And it's cool to showcase those wineries. So if you're involved in that, Carol, that's very, very good. I think it's a smart move. You'll get a lot of people here because of that. So that's cool. And then, of course, we have the Texas Wine Club. Yeah,
yes.
I mixed that up. Those are the boys and the young lady down there in Fredericksburg who distribute Texas wines. They go through a blind tasting and they showcase wines, I think, every month, every quarter. And it's Texas, all Texas, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So I call it the Amazon.com of Texas wines.
And, actually, one of the Texas wine Facebook pages I belong to, someone was asking about where can they drink more Texas wine? Because you just can't go into HEB or something like that and find them now. You can find some.
A local winery or whatever. But
but I actually brought up Texas Wine Club, and they actually said they actually belong to that, and they love it.
Oh, that's great.
So that's a good bonus.
Actually, I don't know if I told you, I'm actually putting an order in this month on that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
I'll be at your house when they come in.
And then our third one is flywithwine.com, our newest sponsor, solving wine shipping problems and dilemmas. That's kind of a cool concept. I've always thought about when I was in Europe the last time. I somehow shipped lots of wine home, and they all managed to get here, but I didn't have the perfect suitcase.
Well, have you heard of Flowing with Wine?
We have one.
Oh, you do?
Oh, they have one now.
Oh, then you definitely know what it is. So tell us your experience with it.
We've only got to use it a couple of times, but it never had any problems. It works really well.
Put the wine in there. It's nice and safe when you arrive in whatever location you're headed to.
Yeah.
And then you bring wine home.
Yeah. You get it right away. You don't have to wait like 6 years later. And
right. Yeah. Well, let's move on real quick. We have a really cool lady here. Carol, thanks for joining us today.
Yes.
The reason we like to have the spouse come on board is to get the real side of the story. So I know Greg is a compulsive liar. No, I'm joking. He was wonderful, by the way. But just share your heart real quick, Carol. What have been your experiences here? And I understand it was kind of your brainchild, actually, to do this, maybe. Is that correct?
Well, anytime she starts off
I wanted a small tasting room, and I made the mistake of buying him a winemaking kit for Christmas. And then the next thing I know, he was going to winemaking school, and we needed to have a very large 25-acre ranch and build a huge winery and have a vineyard. And so I had a little idea, and he
brought it big. Well, he said, though, that you get all the credit for what we're looking at now inside this beautiful tasting room. And are you a very creative person? And is that something you enjoy doing?
Yeah. I mean, the house on the property, was my first project. And I totally gutted that house and renovated it. And then, everything about the interior of this place. I worked with the architects, the construction people, and made all the decisions for how this place looks. The
decision maker. And he gave her credit for that, right? He said she was, that's pretty cool. And then
he should, because he wasn't here.
I love it. He was working, right? He was doing his day job thing. Yeah.
He said something about you walked up and said, I need some money. And he just handed you the credit card too.
His words, and I'll paraphrase, was somehow she got the money. Well, You just must have that nice smile, and you're just a special way of communicating with him. So, well, good job. Well, you should be super proud, as Greg should as well, of this great establishment. So, just from your heart, talk about some of your successes, some of the things you in particular really enjoy about being here.
A lot of the fun things is working with the groups. So we are a member of the Rockwall Chamber of Commerce, which is a 5-star accredited chamber. So they're very big and very well-known Chamber of Commerce, and they do events out here all the time. And other local charity groups, do events out here and things. And so that's one of the things that I enjoy is just working within the community and just meeting people. Like we had a review not too long ago where somebody said it's like Cheers with wine.
Right.
They meant it negative, and I said, I take it as a positive.
Yeah.
I said I like getting to know the people. I like it. And they come in, they're strangers, they become friends, and they become like family. I mean, we get to know them, and we know what's going on in their lives, and so I responded to that lady and said, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, that's the whole reason behind this podcast as well, because we want to get to know y'all. Because then when you get to know y'all, you get to know the wines, you get to understand everything y'all are doing, and everything just becomes like the whole Cheers environment.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And plus you get the regulars coming in. There's hugs and there's great relationships. Then you'll end up going to a wedding, and they'll come to one of your. I understand you guys have 5 kids, so probably weddings and births of children. And you can build that relationship. Yeah. And that's solid. And the Chamber of Commerce doesn't hurt either, right? That's a really great source to have on your back and be able to utilize that great opportunity. So it sounds good. So you enjoy people, you love it. So what's your favorite wine here?
Right now, my go-to is the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, I think that's what we're drinking
right now. That's what we just had. That was very beautiful.
Yeah, that's fun.
Thank you.
Well, good. Well, now, the last question for me, Will might have one, but so your husband's retiring next week. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? You have a to-do list, a honey-do list? Are you going to put him to work, make him work really hard? Or what's his responsibility now that he is retiring?
Yeah, all the things that he said he couldn't do.
I knew that
he now has to do.
Yes. No excuses?
No excuses.
No excuses.
He can always come in and say, oh, you know what, darn, they just signed me another contract. I got to go to work.
Well, see, my wife is not a list girl. So it's not like, Michael, here are the lists. But are you a list girl? Here are your 5 projects for the day, dear?
Well, if it could all be happening in a day, yes.
Okay.
But I don't give him a list that would be over because he'd lose it.
Okay.
So maybe just a few tasks a day.
The real side of the story. See, Will? I love it. Well, good.
So you got a day list, and then you have a week list, and then you have your month list.
Well, that's a good daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals, right? Here you are, baby. Get it done, right? Get it done. Well, cool. Well, you guys have a great place here. Yes. I want to give you all the credit in the world. I'm incredibly impressed. And the wine's wonderful. The personalities are all great. A beautiful facility. I'm just really proud of you guys. I mean, just 2.5 years. I'm so impressed with that. But really, overall, can you finish this part with just what is the vision, Carol? What's going to happen? If I come back in 10 years, what's going to happen here?
Well, if we're still around in 10 years, you never know what's going to happen. But, we hope to have more vineyards, a larger production facility and storage facility instead of just using the barns.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But we hope to, expand and have more room for people to, because we get a lot of requests for events.
Okay. So yes. Yeah.
We want to have more space to do that as
Perfect.
well.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Well, we're grateful. I know you're working actually right now. So thanks for taking a few minutes out to come see us. And we're grateful for you. And just, what a pleasure meeting you, Carol.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your successes. So we'll be back in a minute.
Yep.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We Know Texas Vino, episode 44. I'm so excited about that. We just interviewed Carol. How much fun was that, Will?
That was definitely really fun.
Carol's cool. Yeah, she's a real neat lady. Smart. I can always tell people who are smart.
Yeah, we definitely understand who the brains is
lady next
here.
to us. Yeah. So, well, real quick, Will, why don't you remind people how to reach out to us and all the great social platforms they have access to?
So you can find us out there on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino, and then any podcasting platform you can find us out there. Especially since Spotify is going away.
Right.
They actually now they pushed it off until April of next year.
Oh, so it'll be around for another couple months.
Yeah, just for a few more months.
Okay.
So, and then of course you can find us out there at weknowtexasvino.wine.
Yes, that's such a cool name, and so I love that. But thanks for doing all that hard work too, Will. Often enough, we don't recognize you for your hard IT work and your tech work, and you are an engineer by trade, right?
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay, so you know this stuff better than I do. I just talk in a microphone, Avery. So yes,
and drink wine.
Well, we have a really fun young lady who we just talked to for a moment or two, named Avery. Welcome, Avery. Avery.
Hi, thank you guys.
Yeah, welcome to We Know Texas
Wow.
Vino. So you are, we saw you drinking wine here, and I asked Greg, actually, I said, hey, one thing we like to do is interview a patron. And this, I saw a couple young ladies over here drinking wine, and he said, actually, she works with us. She's one of our prized jewels here. And so,
he said those words?
Oh, yeah, he said something similar
I
like
thought
that.
he said bad apple.
No, he said prized. Well, look at her. Look at that prized jewels. And so I said, well, is there a chance if she's comfortable to come talk to us? And not only did she jump up and sprint over here, she must have been a runner and was a runner, but she is super fun. So Avery, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So what do you do here at this winery?
Well, I serve all the wine.
Okay.
I stock it up and serve it to all of our awesome patrons.
Are you from this area? Is that how you kind of locked into this job?
Not only am I from this area, I am next door neighbors
gosh.
with
that's
the
so cool.
owners.
So there's no reason to be late or call in sick.
Yeah,
They'll
there's no
know.
excuses.
They know
They'll
go
exactly
knock
where
on
I
my
live.
Carol's knocking on the door for sure.
Exactly.
So, what do you? Is this your professional job? I mean, what do you professionally? And why are you so intrigued by working in a winery? I think it's pretty cool.
Well, so I'm actually, this is just a little side hustle right now. I'm in nursing school, so I want to be a nurse. Thank you so much. And she just plugged me in with it. She was like, well, I know you're in school. Like, do you want to help us out? And then I was like, of course. And at the time I wasn't 21 yet, so I didn't get to dabble. But now that I'm 22,
I see you dabbling over there.
I
with your
am
friend.
dabbling.
Yes, you're dabbling. That's very
bottle
good.
on the table, so that's not dabbling.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on your expectations to be a nurse. I think it's one of the greatest professions in the world for sure. It's
And
just
definitely in
phenomenal.
demand. I'm so
in
excited.
demand. Yeah, I have a lot of family and friends who are nurses. It's pretty cool. In fact, I'm meeting a gentleman tonight. His wife is a nurse, which is pretty cool. So, well, good. So you're here now. So can you tell us some of the highlights? What's been really fun for you here?
Oh my gosh, it's my regulars. Those people are amazing. I work every Friday night. Sometimes I work on Thursdays or Saturdays or whatnot, but my Friday night people are my people. They are so sweet. Our members are amazing.
Right on. And so can you tell us a fun story of something comical that happened here? Maybe you were involved in or you witnessed it. That would kind of like it'd be fun for our listeners.
Oh, yes. I very, very much have one.
Okay,
so
perfect.
one of my regulars, he had his brother come in and I didn't realize that it was his brother. And I, by accident, called him his son.
Oh.
And I learned the very hard way to never assume relations between people.
Is that a lady thing? Because for guys, what do we never talk about?
A woman's age.
No. we never talk about pregnancy, right? That's just taboo. That's just taboo.
100%.
Yeah.
Like when are you due? And you get slapped.
You know, I got asked that one time.
If you were pregnant?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's
Actually,
never
I was
good.
due.
And so for Avery, that was a very similar. It's like, is this your son? That's pretty awesome. Did you all have a good laugh after that, though?
Oh yes,
Oh, good.
I love him. He was okay with it. But to this day, this happened about 6 months ago. To this day, every time he comes in, I get made fun of for it, and I totally take it.
Do you blush at all? Because you got this.
She's blushing right now. What are you talking about?
I'm heating up right now.
Yeah. Well, because you and I have this German Swedish act. And if I blush if I get but you should blush up nicely. That's pretty awesome.
It's great. I love hearing
Good
it.
for you. Well, I have two additional things. One is, what is the best part of this winery? What sets it apart from anything else you've experienced?
It's family owned and family loved. Like we're a big happy family around here. We have friends, we have cousins, we have siblings coming in, and it just brings a different type of feeling to the atmosphere. Getting to drink wine with not only people that enjoy the wine, but people that you enjoy being with.
Wow, those are huge words,
Those
right? Because
big
you
words.
want to be that community that's attracting not only the events and all the parties and stuff, but just the regulars, right? Get them in here because it's part of the family.
Right.
Yeah, very good. And then my final question, and we'll wrap it up. But what's the best part about Greg and Carol?
Oh my gosh, there's so many
And
things.
they're going to be listening to this too, by the way.
they'll
So
listen.
you
I know.
choose your words wisely.
If I could just introduce, to me, they seem very much in touch with not only obviously their employees, but also with the community. They have a great heart, and they're all about just experiencing life with other people, right? Well, like you and I like to do. So, in your opinion, Avery, what's the best part of that couple?
Well, I feel like I have a really good say in this because I've known them for like 15 years
Nice.
now.
Oh, wow.
And you nailed it on the head. I mean, they love this community. They love their people. And the perk of it is they also love wine. And so bringing those three things together, I mean, it's the triple threat.
Yeah, for sure. Will, did you have a question? Because I thought maybe she could do our educational part as well. And that is just kind of being in that customer service role. What are some of the things you look out for? What are some of the things you need to, does that sound like a fair, we do an educational part usually, but I thought you'd be fun because you're such a fun personality.
Oh, thanks.
So our educational portion, ladies and gentlemen across the country, including over in, was it Madagascar? Where's the last place? Ethiopia?
Cambodia.
Over in Asia.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cambodia. I don't know
so let me ask you this. So when you get time, I mean, eventually you're going to have to move on.
Right.
And I know from my experience, I don't know about Michael, but there has been a couple of jobs in my lifetime that I had the hard choice of quitting. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, it was a very emotional quit.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel that way when it comes time for you to move on? Do you feel that's the way you're going to have right here?
Of course, they're my family now, especially like the other people I work with and their employees. Like we're a big family, and like I look forward to coming to work every Friday.
That's awesome
because I love these people, and it's so fun to work here. And I know I graduate next December, so it's approaching quickly, and I think about like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do without my wine family?
Yeah, and end up in like New York or Alaska or something like that. It's like, oh, that's the winery's a long ways away. Yeah, so well, cool. Well, let's educate real quick. So you have an excellent personality. I think that's important with customer service. So what are some of the cool parts of being in that customer service role, and then what are some of maybe the things that folks should watch out for?
Before you answer that, let's even add to that.
Okay.
Oh, no.
What are some of the things that are your customers, and not just yours here, but when visiting any of the wineries, what are some things to take note of, to help out sometimes?
Okay. Well, as a general customer service role, I think it's important to remember that a lot of things are out of our control. And although I would say 98% of the time when I've been working here, I mean, it's amazing. My customers are amazing. They're so sweet to me. However, that 2%, they forget that some things, food, things were it's out of my control. I can't bring those things back to them. And they take it out on me, and sometimes it stinks.
Yeah.
And, but at the end of the day, it's like, I can't help that, and I have to move on. And so I would say that would be the biggest thing, is to remember, like, we're just here to help you and make your day great. Like, we're not trying to ruin it. And I want to give you the best experience possible. And sometimes that means we don't have everything, but what we do have, I'm going to give it to you and make it awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think going to other wineries as a customer, just have an open mind, especially for wine. I mean, y'all know you own a wine podcast that wines, what I might taste and think it has, other wines that people taste, their palate is so different.
Yes.
And so keeping an open mind and being willing to enjoy what they have to offer.
That's such a great lesson. You and I've talked about that numerous times, but thank you for saying that, Avery, because it's such an important part to go to a winery and be open-minded. By gosh, I mean, why would you be so obnoxious and go in there with these expectations, unreal expectations?
It's kind of like what we had discussed several months ago, where my experience, where a lady was from California, grew up in California, drank California wine, and she only liked wine from one Texas winery. And she was sitting there talking to me face to face, and I was having a very good conversation about how, her palate is trained for California and not for Texas.
Right.
And while her husband's sitting in the back, sitting there laughing at me, like giving me big thumbs up, like saying good job, without saying good job,
Yeah.
But I mean, wine, you have to have an open mind, and you have to have an open palate, because if you don't, you're going to miss out something amazing.
Well, it's just like my son, my oldest boy, by the way, he's single. He's 26, makes lots of money, but that he, as a young boy, would not eat a lot of foods. He was just very picky, and now he loves broccoli. He loves all. It's like you missed all those years of not eating good food.
Yeah.
So be open-minded for 100%. Sure.
Sushi,
yeah, sushi. He likes sushi now. Very cool. So, and so you would say that this is probably one of the highlights of your young life. I think you said you're 22. So one of the cool highlights is working with a community of people who enjoy good wines. They're open-minded. They're friendly. They're fun. And of course, you work for a great establishment here. But it's been one of the fun parts of your life so far.
Oh yes, 100%. I loved it.
I love it. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Avery. We're grateful. Stick around for a minute. Go ahead.
What is your favorite wine to drink? Not from just here, but from any other wineries that you go to. So
because legally, she's only been drinking for about a year.
Yes.
We're not talking about when she was 16, but we're talking about legally.
Probably when she was 16. It was
we can't do that. We can't, don't do that to her. Okay. Let's take care of her for she and her family.
So let's start here.
Okay.
And have you been to other wineries besides here?
I've only been to 2 others, but
okay, so
a little bit.
So when you go to a new winery, then what do you gravitate to? So what do you drink here, and then what do you gravitate to when you go to a different winery?
So I've noticed I still have a lot to learn and a lot to figure out with my palate. So I'm still a dabbling, but I drink our Cabernet here.
Nice.
And elsewhere, it is typically something towards a dry but not too dry red, and that's normally where I go.
And for being young, that's unique because
unique.
Although I was also a red guy my whole life, I think you were a sweet guy, weren't you?
I'm a sweet guy.
You were a sweet guy. Now you've evolved into the mature side of life, which is
I'm
the
a sweet
red
guy, but
wine.
not a sweet guy.
Yeah, right on.
Gotcha.
Well, cool. Well,
Noted.
Avery, we're very grateful for you. Stick around for a minute. We just have a couple things to do. Plus, I have 2 quotes, and I need someone to laugh at them.
Yeah,
so
we need somebody to
hopefully
laugh at
Avery will
him.
give me some.
I got you guys.
Well, takeaways real quick, Will. Avery's been great. Carol, Greg, it's all been wonderful. What's your takeaway so far today?
The takeaway from this one is probably the best one I've ever had at any of the wineries is that there is no dream too small.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's like profound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most smartest thing I'll say the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my takeaway is that it's hard work. Okay, it's hard work, but boy, when you love something, isn't it fun? Like nursing. I mean, when you love something, it's almost easy to get it done. It's almost easy to dive in, put both feet in, and get it accomplished. So for me, listening to Greg and listening to Carol, to me, when you love something, this is like family. This is something that's just, it's like waking up in the morning and then you just go do what you love, right?
It's like drinking Folders in your cup.
So that's right. Well, she's probably too young for that one too. So a couple of quotes here to wrap up our day. We're so grateful for our listeners around the country, around the world. As Will so passionately said, we're a national podcast, but we're now a global podcast, which is pretty cool. So we're in Mexico and a bunch of other places too. I have 2 quotes, and Avery, don't judge me, okay? But I try to
go ahead and judge me.
I'm
now.
not a judger.
Okay.
No, you need to judge.
Well, my first one is the great Ben Franklin. We all know who Ben Franklin is. He said, "Wine makes daily living easier, less hurried, with fewer tensions and more tolerance." Is that true or what?
That is true. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Good thing my boss doesn't listen to this podcast.
Right. And the second one is a little deeper. It's a little deeper. So I just want everybody to be ready for this one. A man, fallen on hard times, sold his art collection, but kept his wine cellar. When asked why he did not sell his wines, the man said, "A man can live without art, but he cannot live without culture." Thank you very much. Oh, I just blew Will's mind.
Well, I mean, Avery over there's got the same look I got.
Let me process.
A man cannot live without art, or can live without art, but cannot live without culture. Wine is culture. Wine is life.
Yes.
Wine is the beauty of this world.
It's just very deep.
I know. Sorry. I'll try to get rid of the deep ones, ladies and gentlemen. So, well, we are excited. Episode 44 from the great country of Texas.
Yes.
And more specifically from, I have to look
Rosini.
it up. No, well, Rosini Winery for sure.
Rockwall, Texas.
Rockwall, Texas. And more importantly, it's right here, McClendon Chisholm.
Chisholm, baby.
County, right? Yahoo. And we want to thank the Rosini family. Of course, Greg and Carol. Thank you, Avery, for joining us today.
Yeah.
This is We Know Texas. This is Michael.
This is Will.
Cheers.
Cheers.